So obviously I am a huge Kiss fan. If you've ever seen anything from my channel, I have spent a ton of time talking about Kiss's music, but I thought it would be fun to talk about some other albums while still relating it to Kiss. And that's this video. I'm going to talk about 5 albums I think you should definitely check out. You might have already heard them, but still worth chatting about regardless. So let's get started. Number 1. Cheap Trick at Budacon. Cheap Trick was formed in 1973 featuring Rick Nielsen on guitar, Tom Peterson on bass, Bunny Carlos on drums, and Robin Zander on vocals. Their self-titled debut was released in 1977, followed by In Color later the same year. Neither album did particularly well, but In Color was popular in Japan with I Want You to Want Me and Clock Strikes 10, both becoming hits there. After their third album, Heaven Tonight, Cheap Trick toured Japan to great success and recorded a live album while they were there. Initially only released in Japan, the demand for it was so high that it was eventually released in the US in early 1979, where it achieved triple platinum success and gave Cheap Trick their biggest hit single in the States, the live version of I Want You to Want Me. So obviously there's a major parallel to Kiss's story. Kiss formed around the same time, though they were able to get a record deal much earlier. And Kiss's first 3 albums were released to middling success at best. But a live album, 1975's Alive, is what broke them into mainstream success. Gene Simmons often credits Kiss Alive as the blueprint for live albums, such as Peter Frampton Comes Alive and Cheap Trick at Budacon. And to be fair, Cheap Trick does name-drop Kiss in their song, Surrender. Cheap Trick at Budacon is generally considered to be one of the best rock and roll albums, and it certainly lives up to that reputation. It's punchy, energetic, and just a blast. A quintessential live album along with Kiss Alive. So if you love Kiss's live efforts, this is definitely one worth checking out.
Build our stage! Build our stage!
Number 2, Alice Cooper, Billion-Dollar Babies. The Alice Cooper Band officially formed in 1968, as that was the year they took on that name, but they had been together for a few years preceding, going through a couple different lineups and names. But the original Alice Cooper Band as of 1968 was Alice Cooper on vocals, Glenn Buxton on lead guitar, Michael Bruce on rhythm guitar, Dennis Dunaway on bass, and Neil Smith on drums. They were signed to Frank Zappa's record label and released 2, in my opinion, absolutely terrible psychedelic rock albums that sold nothing. The band relocated to Detroit and teamed up with producer Bob Ezrin, which yielded the band's first hit, I'm 18. That single's success increased their commercial viability and label support in time for their third album, Love It to Death. Strong hard rock albums and an increasingly elaborate and shocking stage show only grew Alice Cooper's stardom, with the culmination being 1973's Billion-Dollar Babies. This was the band's 6th album and their most successful, reaching number 1 in the Billboard charts and featuring hit singles such as No More Mr. Nice Guy. It is a rock and roll classic. If you're a fan of Kiss, the big tie is of course Bob Ezrin. If you like the bigger and more polished sound of Kiss once they started working with Ezrin on 1976's Destroyer, this is right up your alley. Plus, anthems like Hello Hooray and Elected would appeal to any Kiss fan. And it's such a great album. Additionally, in the early days of Kiss, the members went and saw a show on the Billion-Dollar Babies tour at Madison Square Garden, and it was a major influence on the direction Kiss took. Number 3, New York Dolls. The New York Dolls were contemporaries of Kiss in the New York scene in the early 70s. Their main lineup solidified in 1972 and consisted of David Johansen on vocals, Johnny Thunders on guitar, Arthur Kane on bass, Sylvain Sylvain on guitar, and Jerry Nolan on drums. They released their debut album in 1973. It did not sell super well, and the band broke up just a couple years later. They were never able to reach the kind of mainstream success Kiss found, but of course remain a cult favorite. I think fans of early Kiss, Hotter Than Hell especially, will like this. It's kind of a glam punk thing. It's got an energy and an edge mixed with pop hooks that early Kiss had as well. Number 4, Halestorm, The Strange Case of. Halestorm was formed by siblings Lizzie and R.J. Hale, with the former on lead vocals and guitar, and the latter on drums. In the early 2000s, they were joined by guitarist Joe Hottinger and bassist Josh Smith. Their self-titled debut album was released in 2009. The Strange Case of is the band's second album, released in 2012. Its lead single, Love Bites, So Do I, won a Grammy, and they continue to record and tour quite successfully. They are definitely one of the best live acts around today. I thought about including a hair metal album on this list because Kiss was such an influence on that subgenre, but it felt a tad obvious. Halestorm feels like a more interesting choice while still having that kind of relevance because hair metal was such an influence on Halestorm. If you're a fan of the Kiss albums Animalize and Asylum, you'll dig the big heavy songs like the aforementioned Love Bites. The album also features some big ballads and catchy anthems such as Here's to Us. I think Halestorm's mix of heavy riffs, pop melodies, and often horny lyrics will appeal to most Kiss fans. Number 5, Dorothy The Way. Dorothy is a band that debuted in 2014 consisting of Dorothy Martin on lead vocals, Jake Hayden on drums, Sam Bam Colton on guitar, and Elliot Larango on bass. Their debut album was released in 2016. The Way is Dorothy's fourth and most recent album, having been released in 2025. Dorothy combines heavy metal riffs with Dorothy Martin's bluesy voice and style, and it's really cool stuff. It's simple, but sounds huge. The Way continues this. It may be Dorothy's heaviest album yet, but still has that signature blues vibe and catchy hooks. I think if you enjoy Kiss's heavier work, such as Creatures of the Night, you'll dig this. So that's my list. Let me know what you think of these albums, and be sure to suggest your own in the comments.